If you own any Harley-Davidson motorcycle manufactured between 2017 and 2019, equipped with the Milwaukee-Eight engine, your engine is slowly destroying itself from the inside, and you need to know about it immediately. This isn't clickbait. This isn't exaggeration. This is a documented, widespread, catastrophic design defect that Harley-Davidson knew about, buried in technical service bulletins, quietly fixed for future production, and left tens of thousands of existing owners to deal with on their own, with zero recall, zero compensation, and zero accountability. The defect is called oil sumping, and it causes complete engine failure without warning, costs $8,000 to $9,000 to repair when it catastrophically fails, and affects every single Milwaukee-Eight powered Harley from model years 2017, 2018, and 2019 regardless of model, displacement, or how you ride. Road Glide, Street Glide, Ultra Limited, Road King, Heritage Classic, Fat Boy, Softail Deluxe, Lowrider, Breakout, every CVO model, all of them have the same ticking time bomb waiting to detonate. If you want to know what oil sumping is, how it destroys engines, which specific component failed, why Harley covered it up, what it costs to fix before catastrophic failure versus after, and what you need to do right now if you own one of these bikes, hit like and subscribe, because this is the most comprehensive breakdown of Harley's Milwaukee-Eight disaster you'll find anywhere, with real owner stories, technical details, legal implications, and the brutal truth Harley desperately doesn't want discussed. Let's start with what oil sumping actually is, so you understand the mechanics of how this defect kills engines. In a properly functioning motorcycle engine, oil circulates continuously. The oil pump has two sides, a pressure side that pushes oil through galleries to lubricate bearings, pistons, cams, and other moving parts, and a scavenge side that pulls oil back out of the crankcase and returns it to the oil tank for cooling and filtering before it circulates again. This circulation needs to be balanced. Oil going into the crankcase must equal oil being scavenged out. If the scavenge capacity is insufficient, oil accumulates in the crankcase instead of returning to the tank. That's oil sumping or wet sumping, a condition where oil pools in the crankcase, creating multiple catastrophic problems simultaneously. First, the accumulated oil gets whipped into an aerated froth by the rotating flywheels and crankshaft. Aerated oil can't lubricate properly because it's full of air bubbles. It's like trying to lubricate machinery with soap foam instead of oil. Second, the deep pool of oil in the crankcase creates massive rotational resistance as the crankshaft sloshes through it. Imagine trying to run through waist-deep water versus running on dry ground. The engine loses power dramatically as more energy goes to churning oil instead of driving the rear wheel. Third, the oil level in the oil tank drops because oil is trapped in the crankcase instead of returning to the tank. The oil pump then pulls from a nearly empty tank, reducing oil pressure to critical engine components. And fourth, the aerated oil gets forced out through breather passages, contaminating the air filter, coating internal components with oil mist, and creating oil leaks throughout the engine. The consequences escalate from annoying to catastrophic as the condition worsens. Early symptoms include blue smoke from the exhaust on startup as oil that accumulated overnight burns off. You might notice oil accumulation in your air filter or oil residue on the right side of the bike near the air cleaner. Your bike might feel slightly less powerful on hot days or during extended highway riding. These early symptoms are warnings that most owners miss or ignore because they're not dramatic enough to trigger alarm. But the sumping is progressively getting worse with every ride. Eventually, the oil level in the crankcase builds to the point where the crankshaft is constantly sloshing through deep oil. Acceleration becomes sluggish. The engine overheats from the rotational resistance and inadequate lubrication. And then comes catastrophic failure. Here's what catastrophic oil sumping failure looks like. And this is directly from real owner experiences documented in forums, lawsuits, and detailed failure reports. You're riding normally, often on the highway at sustained speeds, which makes sumping worse. The engine starts running rough. Power drops dramatically. You might hear unusual noises, clattering or grinding. The engine temperature spikes, and then, suddenly, total failure. Bearings seize, lifters collapse, pistons score cylinder walls, connecting rods bend or break. The engine either seizes completely, locking the rear wheel and creating a dangerous loss of control situation, or it runs catastrophically rough and requires immediate shutdown and towing. You check the oil dipstick, and it shows low or empty even though you just changed oil recently. That's because all your oil is trapped in the crankcase, not in the tank where the dipstick measures it. Here's the truly terrifying part that makes this defect so dangerous. The Milwaukee-Eight does not have a low oil pressure warning light. Read that again. A modern motorcycle engine with a known oil system defect has no warning system to alert you when oil pressure drops to dangerous levels. You will not get a dashboard light. You will not get an audible warning. You will not get any indication that your engine is about to destroy itself until it actually destroys itself. This is such a fundamental safety failure that it's almost incomprehensible. Every car since the 1970s has an oil pressure warning light. Many older motorcycles have oil pressure lights. Harley deliberately chose not to include one on the Milwaukee-Eight, and when the oil sumping defect causes oil starvation, riders have zero warning before. Catastrophic failure. The oil pump defect that causes this nightmare is specific and documented. The 2017 through 2019 Milwaukee-Eight engines used an oil pump with a 10-tooth scavenge gear. This gear size provided insufficient scavenge capacity under real-world operating conditions. Harley's engineers either miscalculated the required scavenge volume during the design phase, or they knew it was marginal and approved it anyway, hoping it would be adequate, or they discovered the problem during testing and shipped it anyway, planning to fix it later. Regardless of which scenario is true, and we'll discuss evidence for all three, the result is that tens of thousands of motorcycles left the factory with oil pumps that could not adequately scavenge oil from the crankcase under conditions like extended idling, slow-speed riding, stop-and-go traffic, or sustained high-speed cruising. The problem manifests differently depending on riding style, which initially made it difficult for Harley to acknowledge because not all owners experienced it equally. If you ride short distances, 5 to 10 miles, and then shut down, you might never notice oil sumping. The oil accumulates slightly in the crankcase during your ride, but when you shut down and restart later, it drains back and you don't see symptoms. If you ride in moderate conditions at varying speeds for 20 to 40 miles, you might experience minor sumping symptoms like blue smoke or slight power loss, but nothing catastrophic. But if you ride extended distances at sustained speeds, 70 to 80 miles per hour on highways for an hour or more, or if you ride aggressively in canyons pushing the engine hard through rev ranges, or if you spend time in slow traffic or at idle where scavenging is minimal, the sumping becomes severe and eventually catastrophic. This variability allowed Harley and dealers to gaslight owners initially. When owners complained about blue smoke, oil in air filters, or power loss, dealers would claim it was normal, or that the owner was overfilling oil, or that it was a break-in characteristic, or that it was due to riding conditions and not a defect. Owners were told they needed to ride it harder to clear out the oil, or that they needed to rev the engine before shutdown to pump oil back to the tank. These were band-aid solutions that didn't address the root cause. The oil pump was fundamentally inadequate, and no amount of riding technique or maintenance procedures could fix an undersized mechanical component. Harley's internal awareness of the oil sumping problem is documented through Technical Service Bulletin M-1450 issued in 2019. This TSB, which Harley did not widely publicize and which many dealers never properly communicated to customers, acknowledged that some 2017 to 2019 Milwaukee-Eight engines may experience oil consumption, smoke on startup, or oil accumulation in the air cleaner. The TSB described symptoms, provided diagnostic procedures, and, importantly, did not describe a fix or repair procedure. Instead, it recommended that dealers advise customers to rev the engine to 2,000 RPM for 30 seconds before shutdown to help return oil to the tank. This is an admission that the scavenge system is inadequate at idle speeds and needs higher RPM to function properly, confirming the design defect. But here's what's absolutely damning. In 2020, for the 2020 model year Milwaukee-Eight engines, Harley quietly redesigned the oil pump. The new pump uses an 8-tooth scavenge gear instead of the original 10-tooth gear. Smaller gear teeth means the gears rotate more times per crankshaft revolution, moving more oil volume per unit time, providing greater scavenge capacity. Harley also redesigned the pump body housing to accommodate the new gear set. These changes are substantial engineering modifications that required new tooling, new part numbers, new manufacturing processes. This wasn't a running change or a minor revision. This was a deliberate redesign to fix a problem Harley knew existed. And here's the criminal part. Harley never recalled the 2017 to 2019 bikes. They never sent letters to registered owners warning them about the defect. They never offered to retrofit the updated pump for free or even at a discount. They just fixed the problem for new production and left tens of thousands of existing owners with engines they knew were defective, hoping that most owners wouldn't experience catastrophic failure and that those who did could be handled individually through warranty denials and blame shifting. The scale of this betrayal is staggering. Approximately 175,000 to 200,000 motorcycles were produced with the defective pump across 3 model years. That's not a small batch of bikes. That's Harley's entire production volume for 3 years, left on the road with a known defect. Let's talk about real owner experiences, because the human cost of Harley's decision is documented in lawsuits, forum posts, and YouTube videos. One owner bought a 2018 Street Glide Special in August 2018 for $32,847 out the door. For the first 3,000 miles, everything seemed perfect. Around 4,500 miles, blue smoke started appearing on startup. At 5,800 miles, he discovered oil in his air filter. The dealer told him, "Don't worry, it's normal." At 7,847 miles, 9 months after purchase, the engine catastrophically failed on the highway. Complete internal destruction. Bearings seized, lifters collapsed, cylinder walls scored. Harley denied his warranty claim, stating that evidence of oil sumping and that proper maintenance and riding practices would have prevented this condition. Therefore, the failure is not covered under manufacturer's warranty. That owner was stuck with an $8,500 repair bill for an engine that failed due to a defect Harley knew about and had already fixed in newer production. He borrowed money from family and maxed out credit cards to pay for the repair because he was underwater on his loan and couldn't just walk away. After repairs, he rode the bike for a few more months, but couldn't trust it anymore and sold it for $18,500. His total loss was approximately $15,800, not including the emotional trauma, stress, and loss of trust in a brand he'd been loyal to his entire life. And he's not alone. Thousands of owners have similar stories with varying degrees of financial damage and emotional cost. Another owner reported that his 2017 Road King started smoking at 12,000 miles. By 15,000 miles, oil consumption was a quart every 500 miles. At 18,000 miles, the engine failed during a cross-country trip, stranding him in rural Montana with no nearby Harley dealer. He had to pay for towing 300 miles to the nearest dealer, hotel costs for 4 days while waiting for diagnosis, and ultimately a $9,200 engine rebuild that Harley refused to cover. His vacation was ruined, his bike was out of commission for 6 weeks, and he lost nearly $12,000 between repairs, towing, lodging, and lost work time. He sold the bike as soon as it was repaired and bought an Indian Challenger, becoming another former Harley customer driven away by corporate malfeasance. A third owner, more mechanically inclined, recognized the oil sumping symptoms early after researching online and proactively upgraded his 2018 Heritage Classics oil pump to the 2020 version at 22,000 miles before catastrophic failure occurred. The parts cost him approximately $800, and he did the labor himself, saving roughly $1,200 to $1,500 in dealer labor charges. His bike has run trouble-free for another 30,000 miles since the upgrade. But here's the key point. He shouldn't have had to do this. He paid $31,000 for a new motorcycle with a factory warranty. That motorcycle should not require a $2,000 preventative repair to avoid catastrophic failure of a design defect the manufacturer knew about. The fact that proactive owners can fix the problem proves that Harley could have recalled and retrofitted all affected bikes, but chose not to. The cost breakdown for fixing the oil sumping defect depends on whether you do it proactively or wait for catastrophic failure. Proactive oil pump upgrade using the 2020 spec pump costs approximately $800 to $1,200. For the parts, depending on whether you buy Harley OEM parts or aftermarket alternatives from companies like Fueling or S&S, labor at a dealer or independent shop runs approximately $800 to $1,500, depending on labor rates and whether any additional work is done while the bike is disassembled. Total proactive fix cost, $2,000 to $2,700. This is not pocket change, but it's manageable and prevents catastrophic failure. Catastrophic failure repair after the engine destroys itself costs $8,500 to $9,500 or more, depending on the extent of damage. This includes complete engine disassembly, replacement of damaged bearings, lifters, push rods, potentially pistons, cylinders, and heads if scoring is severe. It includes cleaning or replacing the oil pump and all oil galleries. It includes machine work if any surfaces need to be refinished. It includes reassembly, gaskets, fluids, and dyno testing. And it includes labor for what is essentially a complete engine rebuild. Some owners have reported costs exceeding $10,000 if cases needed to be replaced due to damage. This is financially catastrophic for most owners and completely avoidable if Harley had recalled the bikes and fixed the pumps before. Failures occurred. The models affected encompass essentially Harley's entire lineup during those 3 years because the Milwaukee-Eight engine was their universal platform for all touring and most cruiser models. Every 2017, 2018, and 2019, Harley with a Milwaukee-Eight 107, 114, or 117 engine is affected. That includes Road Glide Special, Road Glide Ultra, Street Glide Special, Ultra Limited, Road King Special, Heritage Classic, Fat Boy, Softail Deluxe, Softail Slim, Lowrider, Street Bob, Fat Bob, Breakout, CVO Street Glide, CVO Road Glide, CVO Limited, and CVO Pro Street Breakout. If it has a Milwaukee-Eight engine and a 2017 to 2019 VIN, it has the defective pump. The only Milwaukee-Eight models not affected are 2020 and later because those received the updated pump from the factory. If you're buying a used Harley, this is critical information. A 2019 bike is only 1 year older than a 2020 and might look identical and have similar miles. But the 2019 carries a potentially $8,000 liability, while the 2020 is substantially safer. The price difference between equivalent 2019 and 2020 models on the used market should reflect this, but many sellers and even dealers don't disclose or understand the oil pump issue, meaning buyers are unknowingly purchasing bikes with hidden defects. If you currently own a 2017 to 2019 Milwaukee-Eight, here's what you need to do immediately. First, check your maintenance records and see if the oil pump has already been upgraded. Some dealers proactively upgraded pumps for regular customers, and some previous owners upgraded before selling. If documentation shows a 2020 oil pump installation or an aftermarket high-volume pump installation, you're good. If there's no documentation or you're unsure, assume the pump hasn't been upgraded. Second, contact a Harley dealer or competent independent shop and get a quote for oil pump replacement with a 2020 spec pump or an aftermarket. Equivalent. Budget $2,000 to $2,700 all in. Yes, that's expensive, but it's 1/3 to 1/4 the cost of catastrophic failure, and it eliminates the defect permanently. Third, if you absolutely cannot afford the pump upgrade immediately, implement damage control procedures to minimize risk until you can save up for the fix. Change your oil more frequently, every 2,500 miles instead of 5,000. Use high-quality synthetic oil with strong anti-foaming properties. Avoid extended idling when possible. If stuck in traffic, shut the engine off rather than idling for 10 or 15 minutes. Before every shutdown, rev the engine to 2,000 RPM for 30 seconds to help pump oil back to the tank, as Harley's TSB recommends. Check your air filter frequently for oil contamination. Monitor for blue smoke on startup. These procedures don't fix the underlying defect, but they reduce the severity of sumping and buy you time. Fourth, if you're planning to sell your 2017 to 2019 Milwaukee-Eight, disclose the oil pump issue to potential buyers and adjust your price accordingly. Hiding known defects is unethical and potentially illegal, depending on your jurisdiction. A bike with the defective pump should sell for $3,000 to $4,000 less than an equivalent bike with the updated pump or a 2020 Plus model, reflecting the cost and risk the buyer is assuming. If you've already upgraded the pump, document it thoroughly with receipts and photos, and use it as a selling point to justify higher asking prices compared to non-upgraded bikes. If you're considering buying a used 2017 to 2019 Milwaukee-Eight, here's your buying checklist. Before making any offer, ask the seller directly. Has the oil pump been upgraded to the 2020 spec or an aftermarket high-volume pump? Require documentation including receipts and photos if they claim yes. If they say no or don't know, assume it hasn't been done. Subtract $2,500 from what you'd otherwise pay to account for the immediate need to upgrade the pump. Get a pre-purchase inspection from a knowledgeable mechanic who can check for oil sumping symptoms, including oil in the air cleaner, excessive crankcase pressure, or evidence of previous oil leaks. If the inspection reveals sumping symptoms, walk away or negotiate an additional discount reflecting higher risk of existing damage. Be especially wary of 2017 to 2019 bikes priced at or near 2020 plus prices. Sellers who don't disclose the pump issue and price their bikes as if they're equivalent to newer models are either ignorant or dishonest. Neither is acceptable. Do your research, know the issue, and refuse to pay a premium for a bike with a known defect. And honestly, unless the deal is spectacular, consider just buying a 2020 or later model and avoiding the entire issue. The peace of mind is worth the potentially higher purchase price. The legal implications of Harley's handling of the Milwaukee-Eight oil sumping defect are significant and ongoing. Multiple class action lawsuits have been filed against Harley-Davidson, alleging that the company knowingly sold motorcycles with defective oil pumps, failed to recall the affected models, denied warranty claims for failures caused by the defect, and failed to disclose the defect to consumers. These lawsuits are in various stages of litigation as of early 2026. Some are in discovery where documents are being exchanged and depositions are being taken. Some are in mediation where settlement discussions are happening. Some are potentially headed toward trial if settlements can't be reached. The legal theory behind these lawsuits is straightforward. Harley had a duty to design and manufacture motorcycles free from defects. They breached that duty by shipping bikes with inadequate oil pumps. The defect caused actual harm to consumers in the form of engine failures and financial losses. Harley knew about the defect based on internal testing, customer complaints, and the issuance of TSB M-1450. Harley failed to remedy the defect by issuing a recall or offering free retrofits, and Harley actively concealed the defect by not disclosing it to buyers and by denying warranty claims while blaming owners. All of these elements together create strong legal liability. The evidence supporting plaintiffs includes TSB M-1450, which acknowledges the problem exists, the 2020 Redesign, which proves Harley recognized the original pump was inadequate, warranty claim denials, which demonstrate Harley's refusal to take responsibility, owner testimony and repair records documenting failures and costs, and, potentially, internal Harley emails, engineering reports, and decision-making documents that will emerge during discovery showing what management knew and when they knew it. If those documents show that engineers warned management about insufficient scavenge capacity before launch and management approved production anyway, or if documents show management decided not to recall because the cost was too high, Harley's liability becomes indefensible. Harley's defense strategy will likely follow their historical playbook. Deny that the oil pump is defective, claim that oil sumping is a normal characteristic under certain conditions, blame owners for improper maintenance or riding practices, argue that affected bikes represent a small percentage of total production, and drag out litigation, hoping plaintiffs settle cheaply or give up. They'll argue that TSB M-1450 was simply providing information to dealers, not admitting a defect. They'll argue that the 2020 pump redesign was a continuous improvement initiative, not a fix for a defect. They'll produce expert witnesses who will testify that the original pump met design specifications and that failures were due to external factors. And they'll overwhelm plaintiffs with expensive litigation, hoping they can't afford to continue. But the evidence is strong enough that Harley will likely settle these cases eventually to avoid trial and the public exposure of internal documents that would devastate their reputation further. Settlements will likely be structured to minimize media coverage, include confidentiality agreements preventing plaintiffs from discussing terms, and provide compensation well below actual damages, but enough to make continued litigation unattractive. Harley will never admit wrongdoing. They'll never apologize. They'll never acknowledge that they abandoned owners. They'll just write checks, bury the scandal, and move on while pretending it never happened. The comparison to historical Harley defects is depressing because it shows a pattern of behavior, not isolated incidents. The twin-cam chain tensioner problem affected 1999 to 2006 models, where plastic tensioner shoes would fail, shred into pieces, clog the oil pump, and cause catastrophic engine failure. Sound familiar? Harley knew about it, didn't recall, denied warranty claims, and eventually settled class actions. The twin cam compensator problem affected 2007 to 2017 models, where the compensator would fail, causing catastrophic drivetrain damage. Harley knew about it, issued TSBs, quietly redesigned it, didn't recall earlier bikes, and settled class actions. Now the Milwaukee-Eight oil pump follows the exact same pattern. Defect discovered, TSB issued, redesigned for new production, no recall for existing bikes, warranty denials, class actions, eventual settlement, rinse and repeat. This pattern reveals Harley's corporate culture and priorities. They prioritize short-term profits over long-term customer relationships. They prioritize avoiding recall costs over doing the right thing for owners. They prioritize protecting the brand image over acknowledging and fixing problems. And they rely on the fact that most owners won't pursue legal action, that class action settlements cost less than proper recalls, and that brand loyalty is strong enough that many owners will forgive them despite being mistreated. It's a cynical, destructive approach that's killing the brand slowly, but that continues because the people making these decisions face zero personal accountability. The executives who approved shipping bikes with undersized pumps got their bonuses for hitting production targets and moved on to other positions or retired. They faced no consequences. The current executives inherited the problem and chose to continue the cover-up rather than fix it properly. And they'll face no consequences either. The only people who suffer are the owners who trusted Harley and bought motorcycles in good faith, expecting them to be properly designed and manufactured. Those owners lose thousands of dollars, lose trust in the brand, and get gaslit by corporate PR claiming nothing is wrong. It's shameful. If you're wondering whether you should buy any Milwaukee-Eight at all given this disaster, here's the honest answer. 2020 and later, Milwaukee-Eight engines with the updated oil pump are substantially better and safer. They're not perfect. The Milwaukee-Eight still has other issues we could discuss, including lifter failures, cam chain problems, overheating, and others. But the catastrophic oil sumping defect is resolved in 2020 plus models. If you're buying new or buying used 2020 plus, you're avoiding the worst of the problem. 2017 to 2019 models are only acceptable if the oil pump has been verifiably upgraded and you're getting a significant price discount reflecting the hassle and risk. And honestly, given how many great alternatives exist from Indian, Japanese manufacturers, and European brands, maybe the best answer is to stop buying Harleys altogether until they demonstrate they actually value their customers rather than treating them as disposable revenue sources. The Milwaukee-Eight oil sumping disaster represents everything wrong with modern Harley-Davidson. Poor engineering, inadequate testing, cost-cutting compromises, management that prioritizes short-term metrics over long-term quality, refusal to acknowledge and fix known defects, gaslighting customers who complain, denying warranty claims for corporate-caused failures, and leaving tens of thousands of loyal customers holding the bag financially and emotionally. If you own a 2017 to 2019 Milwaukee-Eight and didn't know about this issue before watching this video, now you know. Get the oil pump upgraded as soon as financially possible. Don't wait for catastrophic failure. Don't trust that your bike will be one of the lucky ones that never experiences severe sumping. Fix it proactively and eliminate the risk. And if you're considering buying a Harley, understand that this is what you're buying into. Not just a motorcycle, but a company that will abandon you when their engineering fails. A company that will deny responsibility when their products destroy themselves. A company that values their quarterly earnings more than your safety and financial security. Make your purchasing decisions accordingly. There are too many good motorcycles from manufacturers who actually stand behind their products to waste money on a company that treats customers this badly. Drop a comment if you own a 2017 to 2019 M8 and have experienced oil sumping symptoms, or if you've upgraded your pump. Tell us your story. If you work for Harley and want to anonymously share what really happened internally with this defect, reach out because we want the full truth. And if this video saved you from buying a defective bike or motivated you to fix yours before catastrophic failure, hit like and subscribe because we'll continue exposing the truth that Harley doesn't want discussed.